Warning, this content is for entertainment and educational purposes only. This video is brought to you by First Detachment Nutrition. Battle tested, expert formulated. Use discount code AB10 at checkout for 10% off. What's going on, guys?
Howdy.
I get my microphone up here a little bit closer so you can actually hear me. Before we get started, I want to remind everybody that we have the Anabolics e-course, The Science of Anabolics and PEDs, up for sale at anabolicbodybuilding.com. Go check it out. There's a couple hours worth of free content over there if you want to preview it. There's probably like 60 or 70 hours worth of content total up there right now. It's very comprehensive. Science-based. I think you'll like it. And you can listen to us on Spotify. I usually get that uploaded on Sundays. I'll have that up. So what's going on, Chase and Colton? Hopefully everybody else will show up soon.
I feel like
lobby waiting.
I've been missing out, man. Last weekend I cheated on you guys for Steve and the crew over here to go get Cheesecake Factory.
They're cooler than we are, so I don't blame you.
Cheesecake Factory is a pretty good time too. So.
It's pretty damn good, and it's weird because I'm only American, so it's yeah, I've not heard another American for some time. Just kind of interesting. Lots of Australians, Russians, and then like Norwegians and shit, but no fellow Americans.
Well, I'm living vicariously through you. There's Lance Uppercut. He is here.
Perfect.
In spirit, at least. We'll see. Yeah. All right, Colin's tuning in now. Let's see if we got cats.
I think I've seen that tank top like at least 5 times.
Do I need new shirts? Is that what you're telling me? I need to get new shirts.
What are you talking about?
I'm going to let you guys in on a secret that Colin and I are wearing the same clothes we wore to the gym. So that tips you off.
I'm not dirty. I'm just well marinated.
Man, I was on a streak. I hadn't showered in 3 days. I'm just like, I don't fucking care. Then this morning I was like, okay, I stink.
So, personal question for you guys: do you shower before the gym or after?
Well, the last 3 days, never.
Never.
No, Chase don't have to work out with anybody.
It was gross. It was gross. I mean, like,
I try to do it after.
I didn't want to be sitting here and, I'd be smelling myself.
That depends on how ripe I am going into the gym. I don't want to be that guy.
I shower after or before. I don't want to have a stinky butthole at the gym. So.
Yeah, I mean, if I haven't, then I'll shower before. But I mean, well, I guess that was when I was going to public gyms. Like now, I don't really care. But
yeah, now you don't need to.
When I was going to public gyms, I would. It was probably 50% of the time I would shower before, so that I wouldn't be the stinky guy.
My tactic is to train and then shower very late in the evening. So it's basically like I'm showering before and after training. Cover both bases. So I don't have a stinky butthole when I get to the gym. But when I get home, I'm also just stinky for, most of the day, but I'm alone. So
yeah,
who cares?
If I have someplace to be, I'll shower again after the gym. But it's weird since I had COVID. I can't smell BO anymore. At all.
It's a good and a bad thing.
Poop or BO.
That's why Paul and I get along so well.
I can't smell Colin.
I can't stand smelling somebody else.
No, I can't stand that either. Honestly, ever since we did jujitsu, there were a couple guys who didn't know how to wipe their buttholes properly, or like were allergic to doing laundry. And I swore then I would never be that dude.
You get very personal with people in jiu-jitsu. You have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was occasionally that guy that didn't wash his gi for like a month.
Yeah, well, you don't want to be the guy with.
I was that guy.
You're that guy. Of course, you were, Todd.
You know what? I gave that guy with some extra shoulder pressure. I'll tell you what.
That's his defense. His smell was his defense.
Too, is I had a plastic gym bag, and I would put my wet gi in the gym bag, and then I would put it in my car, and then I'd pull it out and I'd put it on, and it would be all wrinkled and wet.
Horrifying.
And it was like,
you're a doctor.
I wasn't at the time. I wasn't at the time. I was like 19 at the time.
And I wonder why I had ringworm like 5
times. Staphylococcus and fucking ringworm.
Yeah.
Lance uppercut. It looks like the predator is hunting you right now.
Yeah, seriously.
Little boxer.
I feel like that everybody that does jujitsu ends up with
sorry, buddy. He's like, God damn it.
Ends up with a staph infection or ringworm at some point in time.
We'll be right back. Technical difficulties.
Justin expressing the frustration.
Look at that.
So I got this 4K camera, but it actually is on some AI controlled mount. So it's not like I can just leave the camera in place. It's like if I move, it follows me and shit.
Oh, look at that.
Did you get that Insta 360 camera?
I don't know what the fuck it is. It's called, I think it's Insta 360. It was the one you put up there. Is that what he just said?
That's the one that I have in my gym. Yeah, it's
okay.
It's cool.
So can
we?
It's good.
And Paul and Colin are really loud.
Can we pan to the tinfoil?
I'm quiet. You said.
Yeah,
you are quiet, Chase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah. Whoa.
Okay.
There he is.
Now we got the test voice.
My bad.
Test. Man. Well, I want to wait until Lance Uppercut is back to have this discussion. But man, people posted my cycle up this weekend. I now understand why pros and top level competitors do not post their milligrams.
Yeah. Everybody's gonna have something to say about it.
Because there's multiple reasons. I want to know which one you're talking about.
Oh, I thought Kurt was out. There he is.
Oh, we're going to make it, bud.
Yeah, I can't really hear very well, but we'll try.
Yeah, it was funny, man. Of course, this is the spiciest cycle I've ever done. Thanks to Roman. Roman's a bad influence. He was
He's a terrible influence. Terrible.
Every year you do, though, it should be spicier and spicier. It's just the way it goes.
Roman's like 250 tests, 200 primo every day. And I'm like, all right, let's do it.
Sounds good.
Pretty sure that was his off-season cycle, wasn't it?
That's current cycle.
Like literally, like milligram for milligram.
That's just TRT, man. He just that's year round. That's the baseline.
That's the base.
Cruising, man.
Didn't he switch to equipoise instead?
I don't know.
I think he told me he was switching from primo to EQ.
Possibly. Justin,
Honestly,
you with us now?
More cost effective.
I think I got it sorted out.
Yeah, looks good.
I set the internet on fire this week with posting my cycle. People, oh my God, I got so many DMs, man. People just like, it's funny because I was cruising on 250 test for like 4 months, just basically chilling out. And then you tell people that, and they're like, oh, you're full of shit. You're not on 250. You're not on 250 test. There's no way you can hold that size. And then I put up my 250 test and 200 primo and 15 units of GH every day cycle, and everybody's like, "You're gonna die."
Yeah,
damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Oh man, I won't name names. But
I've got people telling me that.
What was
they're
that?
Either saying that or they're saying I'm lying.
What's funny
It's like a razor's edge of acceptable cycle. You can never land on it because if it's on the low end, everyone says it's bullshit. If you go 1 milligram higher, everyone says you're going to die. So you can never land on that perfect social media milligram total.
Well,
I mean, I've been more than that for months, and no one said anything. Not one person said you're running too much shit, or not a single person.
I had a coach, a pretty high level coach. I can't name names, but I had a guy reach out to me and told me that I shouldn't be posting this in a public forum, that it's just a bad influence on people. And I'm like, motherfucker, I know what you give people.
Yeah.
and I'm like, come on, man.
Well, yeah, that whole Swiss video that I put up where I was like, I do 3 cc's a day. The comments went wild with that, but there were so many like old pros that were like, you can't be talking about this, you can't be telling people to do this, and I was like,
it's a weird thing that keeping people in the dark is somehow supposed to be the the safer or more appropriate response to things. You know, education is always the better approach. Knowledge is always the better approach. I just never understand the idea of the best way, you know, any kind of touchy subject or risky subject or any subject, the best way to handle it is to bury your head in the sand. That makes zero sense. You know, how are we supposed to learn about it and improve as a bodybuilding culture as a whole?
I think it comes from a place of cowardice. Like they want to be able to cover their own ass, you know?
Yeah.
I think there's also an element. Yeah, I think there's an element of narcissism to it. So if you get what I mean, like if they say, "Oh, you don't need that much to grow," and then people believe that, they go try run a lower dose cycle, they realize they can't build tissue to the same degree as that person. They think, "Oh, I don't have what it takes." Little do they actually know that person was actually running 4 times the amount, and that's the reason why they got the better results. I think that's a big factor.
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
genetics argument is really, most of the time the genetics is just that either they respond to gear or they're taking more gear. So when someone's like, "Oh, he's in the Olympia because he's got good genetics," it's like, if you took more steroids, you'd make up for your bad genetics, unless that your bad genetics are that you get side effects from steroids. But
I just hate the topic in general. The goal is to win a competition. That's it. You know, you don't win like award points for morality. You win like when people say they didn't win, but they only took this much. To me, it's like, well, then you're fucking you're a dumbass. You know, why do the show then? If you could have done a little bit more and won, you know, you don't win. There's no morality. You're still using. You're still, you know, I just don't understand that. And if you need a lot to win, you need a lot to win it. You know, it's your own personal choice. I mean, I think a lot of us as we age are going to maybe change our views about some of the reckless things we did younger. Maybe, you know, but you do that with anything. You know, you ride dirt bikes. When you're 60, you're going to think, Jesus Christ, I can't believe I used to do backflips. You know, I'm lucky to break a neck. But the whole idea of just that whole thing where you brag about not taking much, you know, that's a way. It's like you're bragging about losing, you know. It's just outrageous. Man, you would no other sport would, you know, no heavyweight boxing fighter would be like, yeah, I lost, but you know, I barely trained, so you know, so I'm better than the other guy.
It's
like Formula One, like you're like, I know these Pirellis are going to give me a slight edge, but I'm going to use these tires because they're not quite as good. But I'll just like, I'll just do that. It's like, why?
Showing up to a shallow woman convention in a Honda Civic with poor clothes and saying, "Well, I didn't get any girls because I was dressed bad." I was like, you knew you were going to a shallow woman convention. Why didn't you rent a Lamborghini and buy a suit?
I was laughing last year when I was in the lineup at Masters USA's. There was a guy that was telling everybody that would listen that he was a natural, and then finally there's this one guy, you could tell he competed in a lot of shows, and he was getting really irritated. And he looks at the dude and he goes, "Congratulations, man." It just turns around, walks away. It was the GH thing. I think they got people really stirred up. The 15 units of GH.
It's like they haven't been paying attention. Like we've been talking about this for over a year.
It's been a year, yeah. I started that a year ago. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is wrong with you fucking moron? You have a show that's exclusively about GH and high dose
literally
for a year straight, and they're supposedly your fans, and then they're going to complain that you decided to do something that the other people on the show have experimented with and found. Even John Jewett, who laughed at us when he came on the show, because he thought it was ridiculous to use that much GH, has now changed his story and has studies that he's found showing that 14 units of GH in women was better than 7 units in women before bed. Not putting John down. That's awesome that he, instead of just giving someone shit and then walking away from it, actually revisited the material and made amendments to his belief structure. But
John and I were on the phone. That's where he came up with that stuff from.
Oh, okay.
He reached out to me to redo his J3U stuff with growth.
What's hilarious is where did the whole 5 units or 6 units or 7? Where did this arbitrate?
That's the thing. It wasn't an education or a research study constrained dosing protocol. It was a financial constrained dosing protocol until very recently. That was why people took the amount they took, is because they took what they could afford. It was never based on research. It was never based on research studies at all. It was based on used to be expensive as hell, and people took as much as they could afford, and that was it. And then, so there was, when it became popular, basically from the late 90s up until fairly recently, as the price slowly came down, the doses were pretty well constrained within that range that everyone knows, that 5 IU range, because that's what people could afford.
Well,
But
the 5
it's
IU
not research study backed.
The 5 IU thing actually lines up with what occurs at when you're young. So the whole 1.7 is a replacement dose. What's missing in that statement is that's a replacement dose for an adult. So like that's what my body would produce. So all I'm doing is supplementing what I'm lacking. If you want to look at what goes on in teenage years, it's somewhere between 4 and 6 IUs is what's causing linear growth still. So that's where that 5 units for the minimum threshold for growth came from. It was just an average teenage dose. And then, of course, what people could afford.
Well, I mean, if we want to go with the studies that he's talking about in J3 and what everyone else has mentioned for years, it was 2 units at a time is the most you can grow from, and you have to take it in 6-hour intervals. So that ends up being between 6 and 8 per 24-hour period.
Yeah, but I touch on that in my book. That's pure growth, right? So you're looking at like somewhere between 1.7 and 1.9 units per dose. The growth hormone can be used as growth hormone, and then there's IGF. Then the ceiling is much higher. So that's where, right? So for AIDS, we're not using it for growth. We're using it for IGF. You don't give a shit if the growth hormone effect is capped at 2. The other 16.
So the misconception is, and you cleared this up in your book, was that the minimum threshold for IGF-1 synthesis was 2 units, and they just went with the minimum, whereas you and me figured out that once you extrapolated through, it ends up being 8, and 4 is the maximum.
I think you figured that out. I did the math, but you made sense of it.
So it's 8, and 4 is what it ends up being to get the 30 nanomolars of GH in serum concentration to generate the most IGF. But the whole concept that it's all based on one Frost study that was done on vitro and not in vivo. So therefore, it doesn't even account for this situation where I brought this up before. It's like you inject a muscle cell and the muscle's supposed to grow directly from the GH injection to the petri dish with the muscle tissue in it. But in a human, you've got 2 delts. So why can't you inject one delt and the other delt at the same time? And the refractory period for those delts is 6 hours. But that doesn't mean if you inject the other tricep and the other tricep 2 hours later, and then you could do the quad and the quad 2 hours later. So you really could be loading up with 8. And then the serum got capped out at 30 units a day. There's 30 units a day is where the test subjects capped out at how much they could actually produce IGF-1. But on the Box and Whispers plot, I don't know how to express this mathematically, but if the average was 700, the range was actually like 300 to 2,000. So the average could fit within the Box and Whispers plot like 6 times. So it was a very broad spectrum, and you have to individually test this out. It's useless to go by that study.
What about the acromegaly thing? That's what the people were like giving me shit about. I'm like, bro, my head was gigantic before I ever took growth hormone.
Well, you're already married. It doesn't matter.
The 2 terms. They're wrong about their terms. So the problem is giantism is before the bone plates are closed, and acromegaly is after. But it's not. That's not from exogenous growth hormone. That's from your pituitary, usually an adenema that's causing it. And the level of IGF is much higher. It's like what Todd's saying. It's way at the top of that. The ones that I've seen are in the thousands, and they come in. And they generally don't present themselves with like weird formations. They generally come in and they're diabetic, and they just became diabetic.
So one thing,
and then you run their numbers, and they have an IGF that's like 1,200, and their testosterone's 200, and you're like, well, clearly it's not from drugs. And then you do an MRI and you see the adenema.
So what's funny is we're working under the assumption that the healthy upper limit of IGF-1 is 300 because that's what it says on blood work. That's for a 40-year-old man. If you look at what it is for a teenager, it's 700. Which, how many kids have an acromegaly? None.
No.
So therefore, we really should be running our IGF-1 into the 700s, not stopping at 300 and for patients or whatever and saying, okay, well, you're at the upper limit of normal. No, I mean, if you want to grow, you should be in the 600-700s if you can get there.
But it's
That's what people need to understand about reference ranges for anything on blood work. They're just relative to your locale and therefore the general population. If you carry fucking like 50 pounds additional muscle mass, your reference ranges are probably a little bit higher or a little bit lower than the average person.
Like creatinine. And then that's how you can tell your doctor's a fucking moron, is if he tells you your kidneys are failing because you have a high creatinine when you got more muscle mass or eat more protein.
Yeah. If that ever happens, get a 24-hour clearance test.
Dude, when we first got my dog, he was flown in from California. He was sick. He was dehydrated. He was throwing up. He wasn't like drinking anything. And we took him to the vet the next day to get all of his, puppy vaccines and stuff, and take blood work and all that. And his creatinine was high. And they were like, "Your dog's got kidney failure." And I was like, "No, he's dehydrated. He hasn't been drinking. He's been sick because of the flight over here and all of that." And they were like, "We think you need to take him to an emergency clinic, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "What's that going to cost?" And they're like $10,000 at least. And I was like, and this was also after like they had.
Chase, were you doing the Serostim math? That's yeah. 20 kids of Serostim.
That was about 3 years ago. And so this was also, she was telling me this after they had him on an IV all day because he was dehydrated. And I was like, let's go ahead and do this and get some fluids in him. And so the whole day he was on an IV. At the end of the day, he was back to normal. He was eating, he was drinking, going to bathroom, running around, playing like a puppy. This vet calls me and she's like, "Yeah, so his blood work says his creatinine's high. I think he's, we're going to recommend you take him to the emergency clinic for kidney failure." And I was like, "So how's he doing right now?" She's like, "Oh, he's fine. He's eating and drinking and running around like a puppy." And I was like, "So he's fine. You're saying he's fine after eating and drinking. You don't think he was just dehydrated and that was the high creatinine number?" And she was like, "Well, I can't really say, but we think it's in your best interest to take him into the emergency clinic." And I was like, "I think I'm just going to pick him up and bring him home."
Roll the dice.
Yeah.
What do they have for the reasoning? I mean, if it's a puppy, something acute would have to happen. He doesn't have chronic renal failure as an 8-week-old.
Yeah. I mean,
what was the cause? They have to have. I mean.
That was it. The creatinine was high.
But something caused it. Did he ingest something that it caused acute renal failure? You know what I mean? Like if they have no reason.
There's no thinking.
It was crazy. Then
you're way over. You're giving them way too much credit. They just looked at the blood value.
Exactly.
That's
yeah.
all they know. They have no deductive reasonings. That they could never be a detective in a kid's detective novel. That they couldn't figure out why the muddy shoes were located in the closet, and that therefore, if the crime was committed in the mud, that the person who put the muddy shoes there was the criminal. They are retarded, and they have no idea what they're doing.
So they just did the exact same thing actually, because he needed to get his yearly teeth cleaning, and they have to get blood work for that to make sure that everything looks fine because they have to put them. They have to put them under to clean their mouth and everything. So he took blood work again. His potassium was a little bit high with his sodium. And they were like, we need to do more testing. I think he has Addison's disease. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
More likely he's dehydrated or he has a bizarre tumor on his adrenal gland.
Yeah. I was like, can we just, let's just
disease in dogs.
I was like, let's just redo the blood work and see if it comes back normal.
It's because you're giving your dog EQ, which made his kidneys fail.
Right. So they do the blood work the next day. It looks perfect. Everything's in range. It looks absolutely perfect. And they're like, but he did get that funny number on the first one. So we do recommend we still do all these other tests for Addison's disease. And I was like, but if we would have gotten this blood work on the first test, you wouldn't have brought any of it up. And they were like, well, yeah, that's true. And I was like, okay, let's just go ahead and clean his teeth and get on with it. And so they cleaned his teeth. He was completely fine, had no issues going under and all that. And so it's just ridiculous.
In the future, Masteron is the solution there. So you want to get 2 grams of Masteron.
Right. Yeah, it's just, needless to say, I'm going to go to a different vet because these people are annoying.
Fucking vets.
Well, if he gets sick, it's really dangerous because they're retarded.
I mean, a lot. You got to remember, vets at the end of the day, they're just businesses.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
And like you can have well-meaning people who want to provide great care, but like that ideal is at odds with the fact that they also need to be a profitable business. So like, like
exactly. That's how
they're
I
not
thought.
necessarily incentivized to not recommend extra tests, even though they might be bullshit, because they can do it under the guise of, well, look, I'm just looking out for the best interest of the patient.
Yeah. I mean, they also could have asked some questions regarding Addison's disease. Like, it's hereditary, and like my dog's parents are show dogs. We have genetic testing on all of his brothers and sisters, all of his entire family tree. None of them have Addison's disease. None of them have any kidney disease. None of them have any of that. And it's just like, ask some questions or something. Get a better picture of what's going on.
No offense to any doctors anywhere, but those motherfuckers always need to be the smartest person in the room, no matter what.
Well, with the whole kidney disease things.
The hospital system, I mean, I know we're talking about vets, but the hospital system in general is like the last caste system in the world, like serfs and fiefs. You have like the orderlies and the techs, and then your nurses and the doctors and administrative personnel, and they butt heads, and it's used to be hilarious working in a hospital, watching the anything the doctor said, the nurses thought was wrong. Anything the nurses said, the doctors thought was wrong.
Right.
And
aren't you all supposed to be on the same fucking team?
Yeah. Yeah. The whole kidney thing too. Like, one of the last things I said was, all right, if we send him there and turns out he's completely fine, it's free. But if it's right, like, should it let you pay for it? If he goes there and you're wrong and I'm right, you're gonna pay for it. Otherwise, I'll pay for it. And she was like, "Yeah, I can't do that. I'm not playing that game." It's like, well, come on. I mean, put your money where your mouth is.
I've seen people, their creatinine numbers blow up from just taking creatine. The doctors think that people are in kidney failure.
I'm hypersensitive. That's why I'm so obsessed about kidney function, because my creatinine will get high. I'm really susceptible to rhabdo also. I have autoimmune stuff, but and that's why I always bring up the 24-hour clearance test, because I've had pretty elevated creatinine, and I'm friends with a nephrologist, and so I can get the testing done wherever I want. The very first time when I had a creatinine level that was above what was acceptable to me, that really made me nervous, we did 24-hour clearance test, and my true actual GFR was 135.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so we've learned since that I'm just very susceptible. I naturally produce a lot of creatinine, but I clear all of it, at a really high rate. But I'm very susceptible to dehydration. My numbers can vary by 0.5 in a 24-hour period. Just painting hard, dehydration. It's really pretty wild. I also use lisinopril, which can for blood pressure, which can cause creatinine levels to be a little higher. But ever since then, like when I see blood work, before people panic, I always say get a 24-hour clearance. Find what your actual creatinine clearance rate is, your true GFR, because we're just, anyone with amount of muscle, Cystatin C is better, but the eGFR based on creatinine is just so completely useless for anyone with muscle. You can't make any predictive, decisions based on it, really, because someone like a 285-pound bodybuilder who's lean at 285, a 1.8 creatinine would be like my wife having a 0.5 creatinine. Or I mean, it could be anything. It could mean, 1.8 could mean he's in. His GFR is low. It could mean it's low, and it's going to show that it's like, 45 or 50, but it could be 140, or it could be low. I mean, it just gives no real predictive measure if you have a lot of muscle mass.
Yeah.
That's why we use Cystatin C.
Same thing with creatine kinase or CK. Like mine goes through the fucking roof. Like all of us in here train hard, obviously, but like if I train hard like I normally do, it could be like, say, the range here in Thailand is like 0 to 300, and one's known to be as high as 3,500. Like,
I had over 10,000
stupid
one
high.
time.
You can.
That's wild.
That was just stupid. I had to get blood work. I think I trained legs the day before, and like the script was going to run out, you know, and I was like, they're going to freak out, but what else am I going to do?
Yeah.
You can.
And then they don't believe you because
I
they've
hate that.
never had anyone train hard before.
Yeah.
And you can't explain it to them, and you're like, if you look at this study that I pulled up for you in advance, you will see that this is how it works. And well, I don't have time to read. It's like, of course you don't. But
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can pick
I
up
hate
on
that.
20
My doctor prescribes my ARB, and I hate that when the prescription's about to run out. He's like, you got to come in and get blood work for us. I'm like, all right.
Appreciate
can
these
pick-
kind words from existence here. Is giving back for the free stuff we share.
10
We
euros. Holy
appreciate
shit.
Thanks,
the
man.
honesty, and we appreciate you, man. Thank you.
You can pick up a 24-hour clearance test. They sell them. I get them through walk-in lab. They're like $50. It's super
Yeah.
cheap.
You can
You
go to
wanna do
Alt Labs as well. They're who I use for most of my laboratory analysis, and it's very cheap there. Very, very cheap.
Somebody was asking about God Vito at the Arnold South America. I don't know if you've seen him recently.
You mean good Vito?
don't ever
Good
have
Vito.
Did you say God, Vito?
Good. I didn't
yeah.
sleep well last night. Sorry, guys.
Well, he kind of is a bit of a godlike creature, isn't he?
He looks crazy.
I saw he got his hernia fixed.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
see that.
That's good news.
That looks
The
amazing.
waist is amazing. Amazing symmetry. Like, that's like a perfect
Yeah.
X-frame.
It's almost like a walker.
Just looks angular.
I
Like
had
he
rib
angles those photos so favorably to his physique. I know he's a lot shorter than he's coming off in these photos. That's for sure.
And like even his quads from that angle, like from the front, they look dense, and from
thick
this
he
angle,
is.
they look even more dense. Yeah.
I think he's supposed to be 5'7".
I mean, here he is next to Flex Lewis, and what's he like 5'5"?
Yeah. Well, he says he's 5'5". But when I met him, I think he was
That's a
either
good
my height.
point. That's a good point.
Yeah, so he isn't that tall. That was the hilarious part. Like, it always cracks me up going to places and people see me in person. They're like, "Oh my God, you're huge," and I'm like, "I'm tall. You're just used to seeing these 5'5" bodybuilders."
Yeah.
Do you think what happened to his feet was from growth hormone?
What happened to his feet?
They look like pterodactyl feet.
I think
Yeah, that
Yeah,
too.
that could be like-
He's rotating his foot when he posts his legs.
Looks like a talon. It's like a bit freaky looking.
the
I
velocity.
think-
Like, it look like you're gonna like steal a fucking like baby bird from a tree with them. Like,
he's 5'5" with size 16 shoes.
You know what?
a sideshow Bob.
There's a funny thing about that. Dave Palumbo used to sell his used shoes on his website years ago.
So all the weird people that want to like
But
jack
what-
off on them.
Yeah, but what was funny was you could track it. They were like size 14, and size 15, and size 16.
Oh, jeez.
He was awesome.
That's awesome.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he's got size 16 feet. Yeah,
Hard to
it's pretty
see his
wild.
feet. Samson's got the pterodactyl feet.
Yeah.
Look at the big toe. It's like a tennis racket.
There's that was like in the old cartoons when the guy would hitchhike with that big swollen thumb.
Yeah.
And you guys
Yeah.
think that these bros are taking 6 units of GH?
Yeah,
Good enough gauge for the hobby.
Yeah, they're following the
clearly a
safer use model.
conservative dosage protocol.
They really believe that?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find if there's another picture of his feet. He's got socks on most of them.
I think people roast the shit out of him. That's probably I'd be wearing socks too. Fucking hide that shit, man.
Oh man.
He definitely knows.
Feet.
He definitely knows how to get the angle on Instagram.
Yeah, dude. I think it's a lot of angles, honestly.
What's that effect? Paul, you're a camera guy. What's that effect at the edge of the camera image?
Is that me or is that?
Oh,
Distortion?
God,
Oh, like a wide angle lens. If you got a wide angle lens, it'll like distort and make things near the edge of the lens.
Yeah,
like
so you
look
can see
bigger.
his tricep. I noticed that because I always
Yeah.
try to stand to the side on videos.
Yeah,
So I could
yeah,
edge of the screen.
convex.
Yeah,
You want a
yeah.
convex lens, yeah.
I thought that was just because you were uncomfortable, Justin.
I am also.
it's
Skirt the edges.
I'm uncomfortable because I don't look big if I'm not at the edge of the screen.
it's called barrel distortion.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, at the edge of the camera.
He's definitely doing something.
You know you're a bodybuilder when
That's what a lens like
know where to
that's
stand
for,
on
with
the-
the
on
big
the video
old
screen.
with the big old fisheye on it.
Well, I out angled John Jewett at the Arnold, and he told me he's like I'm never gonna live this one down. Man.
God, John's so big. He's
oh my God, he's
crazy
isn't he?
looking.
So
Crazy
thick.
looking.
Wasn't he a middleweight in like 2018, 17? It wasn't that long ago that he jumped right from I think he cut down to middles and then jumped from middles to heavies when he turned pro. But that's pretty wild to think that dude used to be 176 on stage.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, his legs, like when we were Chase and I met him, his hamstrings,
Just
how much
everything.
density he's got on his hamstring. Yeah, he's just dense.
Just hanging everywhere. It was like, holy shit.
It's such a nice
That's
guy.
the thing. That's the bodybuilder difference. Like gym rats, everyone's got big arms, big biceps, veins, and traps even. But when you go to your first like big expo and you see the top guys walk around and they have that second ass where their hamstrings are, it's like, broop, broop, and you see the difference. It's like, wow, that's a different look.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got muscle on top of muscle. I mean, John, God, he's not going to be a 212 anymore. There's no fucking way.
No.
Well, he got
Yeah.
he's two.
What did you
he's
tell us he
been-
was?
He was 253 when we saw him,
Yeah, and he was lean.
and he had no fat on him at all.
Yeah, he'll be opens for the rest of his life now till he retires.
So the
Yeah.
good dose of urine growth hormone will do for you.
Yeah, like growth hormone, even at a low dose, growth hormone has done so much for me. Like I introduced it about a year ago, a bit over a year ago, and it's just like it's transformed my physique. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it still didn't kind of like hit me until I looked at my check-in photos this week, and I was like looking at my physique, and I was like, "Fuck, I actually feel big for the first time in my life." Like it's weird. It's fucking weird. Like how much of a difference it makes. Like people say it's like it's not a game changer, but it really is. It really is a game changer.
The
Growth hormone.
fullness is the roundness and fullness. It's almost immediate.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, you can see it. I mean, Justin, between my a week and a half.
Oh
and my-
man, yeah, Paul's
pushing my-
Pics in 1 week. I didn't know what to do with it. Yeah, it looked like a different person.
Can you show the difference between pre and post? Because I assume you just increased your GH 215.
everything.
And,
Right.
but I mean, like that's what you're talking about, right? Is you
Yeah. I pushed everything up. Yeah, I was running 5 units of GH, and I went up to 15. Yeah, it was. Let me see if I can find them. But yeah, I mean, it was crazy. Just and my weight didn't change, so I got
Yeah.
leaner and fuller at the same time. It also
Yeah,
helps. Paul.
that's why I mean we talk. That's why I'm more of a proponent of like I'm a kitchen sink guy in prep, but in the off season I really try to keep it pretty basic and mild because you really get that Goldilocks phase at the start of prep if you do what Paul did, where your body at any given calorie intake, your body composition will continue to improve. So you can actually build muscle while burning fat, even in a deficit, if the blood androgen levels are climbing. And so if you are more sensible in the off season, especially later in your career, Paul's not trying to move up a weight class; he's already a super heavy. But if you're more sensible, and then when you go kitchen sink, when the prep starts, you get that Goldilocks phase for that first month where you're really dropping fat and building muscle.
Yeah, it's almost like your body kind of just pulls energy reserves from your fat stores to fill that deficit that you've created with nutrition. And then all of a sudden you're at maintenance because your body's utilizing that additional kind of like filler energy from your fat stores. It's pretty cool to see the whole like grow into show recomp effect.
Yeah, like Kevin Levrone when he used to do it, that used to be wild.
I just started prep 3 weeks ago, and for the first, I guess it would be 19 days, I stayed 217. But I felt like I was leaner, and I felt I looked better. And then the last 2 days, I dropped down from 217 to 211. So it was, I don't know how that worked. One would assume it was water, but it didn't, but it wasn't like an instant change. It was almost arbitrary. It would basically makes me think my scale needs new batteries. Like that's how much I can't figure it out.
It's only one metric at the end of the day. It's a proxy for gauging progression. It's not.
I hate the scale. Yeah. I always say I hate the scale. It's like 70% of our body is water, you know, and to lose 2 pounds of fat, you have to be in 1,000 calorie deficit for 7 days. To gain 2 pounds of weight, you just drink this, you know. Where's the?
Yeah.
So it's like I always say, using the scale to measure progress in any short-term time frame is like weighing your car to measure how much gas is in it. You know, yes, like when your gas tank's empty, your car weighs less, but you know whether or not there's kids in the car or luggage in the back or all that, that's going to, you know, change the weight of your car much more than the actual energy storage, which is the gasoline. And women and men are terrible about it. Men are terrible about it because they're paranoid to see the scale go down, or you know, in prep. And women are paranoid about it because they're paranoid to see the scale go up either way. And it's like, you know, like if you want to see, like for women, if you want to see the scale go down, I can drop 20 pounds by, you know, in 72 hours. If that's all you want. If you want to lose 20 pounds, great. We'll just dehydrate the hell out of you. Boom, you lost 20 pounds. You're almost dead. You have the same body fat, actually a higher body fat percentage now because you've lost 20 pounds of water. But I just hate the scale. I think almost everyone would be a better bodybuilder if weight scales were never invented.
I've stopped really paying attention to it. Like I don't like with the client check-in pics now. I'll look at wherever they started to where they're at now, and then the week to week pictures. I don't even really pay attention to the scale anymore. It's weird how you'll get some people that just like you have to take a bunch of weight off of them to get them to look better, and then other people like the scale barely changes.
Yeah. And so the scale measures water retention. That's it. In any short-term time frame, you know, if you're on a 4-month fat loss plan, you're going to weigh less at the end. But over any week period where you're losing 2 pounds of body fat, 2 pounds of water weight is nothing. So you can't trust the scale to really track anything in a multiple day period. It's only really multiple months. Yeah. So it just drives me crazy that people freak out about it so much.
Well, people don't take like the whoosh account into effect too. You know, so when you lose fat, when your adipose tissue gets to like, let's say 50% full of triglycerides, the body will put water into that fat cell as a placeholder because it thinks that you're going to immediately put triglycerides back in, right? Because if you liberate a bunch of fatty acids and you don't burn them, they're going to go right back into the fat cells. So it'll hold the place. And then what'll happen is that's the whoosh effect. So your weight loss will be flat like this and then it'll drop. And that's just the water coming out of the fat cells.
That's what makes them.
And that means nothing. That's probably what happened to you is you just were here and then water came out.
There are times the scale, like some tricks, like if the pictures aren't making sense, if someone's flat but looks watery, you know, and you see their, if they look watery and their weight is down, that usually means they're sick or they're battling some kind of illness. So, you know, sometimes the scale gives you some information, but as far as like tracking progress from week to week, I just hate it.
Yeah, it only gives you information when you cross-reference it with other more reliable metrics, like you said, like photos and stuff. And I mean, I'll always look at performance and photos first, but I'll just make sure basically with scale weight we're not seeing any like dramatic volatile changes on a short-term basis. If we're seeing, say, like on weekly average, like from 1 week to the next, like 5 or 6 pounds up or down, we're like, okay, we need to kind of like keep an eye on this. And if it keeps kind of that trend, okay, we've got a potential issue here. But if not, things are just gradually moving or like fluctuating up and down, staying the same. It's like, who gives a shit?
This was the pick from this week. That was this week.
Okay.
And then what was last week? Got it on here somewhere. If I can find it.
Most ones were 3 years ago just to freak people out.
This is wild.
This is this last week.
Yeah,
it's wild how much you've gained, like how much size.
Much stomach hair in 1 week.
It's probably the light, but yeah, I mean, I tightened up. I weighed exactly the same. Nothing changed as far as the weight goes.
But you tripled your GH level.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see my waist tightened up and everything, especially like in the side.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about like how much size you've added in just the last couple of years is wild. Like especially to the areas you're working on, like your back and your hamstrings. Like
that was 2 years ago, and then
you got to redo that now.
Yeah, and then
you've got the I'm fucked in that like first photo facial expression. You're like, it's like at that point he realized he fucked. Yeah, so like at that point he realized he fucked up with the T3.
I've never seen a metabolism run away like that.
Well, here was
here's
a good one for you.
That's cool.
Justin got me in shape this year. That was the best. That was this past year.
Yeah.
It was funny because I felt like on prep I wasn't really working that hard. Like there were a couple times, like when we were at Swiss, I think you had me do some 0 carb low days, and I was feeling pretty miserable from those. But like I think you kind of push things in the middle. It seemed like.
Yeah, well, that's the best thing about being big. You get to eat more. I always call it second bodybuilding. There's 2 bodybuilding. Most people never get to second bodybuilding, and that's where the pros are. Most people in first bodybuilding, contest prep is really like just starving, basically. It's miserable, you're starving, but eventually you get big enough and you stay, you're a professional, so you stay in decent shape year round. That prep eventually becomes less about just how much cardio you can do and how much you can starve, and it's more about just being really precise with the diet. It's a different world. Well, like I remember when I did the USAs in 2007, I started prep at 262, and I remember at 2 weeks out I was 266, and that was I started from a cruise to the kitchen sink, but I stayed lean all year, and so the prep for me was more about being really, really precise with everything rather than just taking a fat guy, because early bodybuilders are so obsessed with bulking and getting big. They get up to like 20% body fat, then they got to lose all that, and so prep is really just about starving. But I call it second bodybuilding. When you get to where bodybuilding really is your life and you're a bodybuilder year round, prep is less about starving and more about just precision.
I think I'm starting to get towards that.
I kept it tighter this year. I just didn't want to get as fat as I did last year. I'm only I think 16 17 pounds up over what my stage weight was.
You stayed really lean all early after your last show for the first couple months.
Well, the hilarious part was I wasn't following a diet, Justin. I was eating what the fuck ever.
What was it? What was that McDonald's burger you were getting all the time?
The McDoubles.
Yeah, McDoubles. That's right.
McDoubles every day.
The McDouble diet.
McDoubles. I used to get when they used to have the dollar menu. You could get a double cheeseburger for $1. I used to get 4 double cheeseburgers and turn them into 2 quadruple cheeseburgers. That was the greatest meal ever.
I do the McDouble and the McChicken, and then a McDouble and the fillet of fish, and slap those together. That was the fucking
I don't care what people say. McDonald's, it might not even be food. I don't care.
It's good.
Oh, man.
I used to get the McChickens were good. I'd get those.
They're so slutty.
Justin, I wanted to ask you why you got on here. We got on the discussion. It was a couple weeks ago about the rebound, and people were asking us about the rebound and how that works and the mechanisms behind it. And we were debating whether it's real or whether it's real tissue or what's going on during the rebound.
I mean, I don't have any. It's not like there's good research studies on this, but what I think probably happens is you get a massive amount of sarcoplasmic growth. You hold so much intermuscular, intercellular water for that period post show. I think it just kind of builds the infrastructure for, as that slowly fades, for the myofibrillar growth to take over as the off season carries on. And I think that's when people say solidifying at a weight. I don't know if that means anything, but in my mind, what's happening is, right after the show, you're absorbing nutrients. There's so much intracellular water. Your blood vessels increase in size. They dilate. Your capillary density increases. Your ability to carry nutrients increases with all that fluid, and that kind of creates the infrastructure for improved actual, tissue growth. The actual, amino acid protein structures being built, and that's obviously much more slower. And I think as as you get further away from the show, that excessive sarcoplasmic fullness kind of fades as that, myofibril growth is increasing, and they kind of meet in the middle somewhere. And you know what? You know how you look 4 weeks after a show, you're so full, you look like you could pop you with a pin and water would explode everywhere. Your muscles are so full and round, and then 3 months later, you might be the same weight and the same body fat, but it doesn't look as full and round, and it looks, not quite as ready to pop, but it's obvious you've added the muscle.
Yeah. The only other component is you're putting back on the muscle you lost.
Yeah.
I was going to say, the only part where the science doesn't line up, though, is we know now that sarcoplasm and myofibril growth occur concurrently. They're not separate things.
Yeah.
So as sarcoplasm is growing, so is myofibril. So there's never such thing as, back in the day, they would say, bodybuilders are bigger than powerlifters because of sarcoplasm. That's total shit. There's no truth there. It's actually occurring at the same time. If bodybuilders are bigger than powerlifters because we train differently than powerlifters, and we also eat for a goal where they don't really generally give a shit what they eat.
When I say
sometimes they're eating to stay under a weight cut.
I don't know that I'm even really meaning sarcoplasmic. I more mean like just that excessive water retention.
Cross-sectional area, intracellular retention, increasing cross-sectional area. I see what you mean.
It's funny, sarcoplasmic. I remember, Todd, you were at the Ken Jackson seminar when that was still, sarcoplasmic wasn't even like officially a thing back, and that was only 7 or 8 years ago. It's funny how and so that's what cracks me up when people think we know everything currently. It wasn't that long ago before that was not even technically considered a thing.
So the amount that's changed in the last 8 years as far as exercise physiology is concerned, and anabolic pharmacology is the equivalent of the difference between the 1970s year 2000 with computer science.
Well, we're in like the Renaissance as far as exercise science and exercise. There used to be nothing. There was nothing for what we do. There would be some Olympic lifting stuff, but that's it.
3 sets of 10 with a leg extension. Yeah. I remember my medical textbook, Guyton and Hall physiology book, said that human muscle cannot grow more than 30%. And I was like, this is fucking stupid. That you could look at a pro bodybuilder and see so they're 300 pounds. And they started at 150 pounds. Yeah. That they multiplied their muscle mass by 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 times. Yeah. A normal human male has 30 pounds of muscle mass. I was like, these guys have 200 pounds of muscle. What the fuck are you talking about? And of course,
it's cool to see because we're really lucky to be a part of it. But it's frustrating also in that anytime there's new education, most people don't like being educated. I think, and I'm probably no different. It's hard when you have a belief system and new science comes out to prove your belief system wrong. But so it's frustrating on social media right now because there are actual experts now, and so the wannabe experts are struggling.
Well, it's true. When I grew up, most of you did. When it was in a book, it was considered true. Mm-hmm. Now there aren't books. There's just podcasts. And anyone can make them. And it was it's when you meet the person who wrote the book and you find out he doesn't actually know what he's talking about, or he doesn't agree with what he wrote in the book anymore, because the book took a year to write and a year to publish. So by the time the book comes out, he's already changed his opinions. Then you're like, okay, so if it's in a book, it might be true, it might not. But what this is not a tablet from Mount Sinai. This is just some guy who's popular, had enough people that liked him to give him money and published him because his name was famous.
Yeah, that's a funny thing about podcasts. If you ever want to question everything, listen to a podcast on a topic you consider yourself highly educated in, and see how many incredibly wrong things experts will say. Listen to a podcast where a doctor will talk about calories in, calories out, not mattering, or only mattering for certain people, or things that just are just so far beyond not proven that it's outrageous. And so you see that and you think, geez, when I'm listening to a podcast on subjects I don't know anything about, how wrong is that person?
You guys know Peter Attia, right? I'm sure most of you have heard Peter Attia.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He had a guest on recently. He was an endocrinologist. He was dead set on this idea that he wouldn't like to prescribe testosterone cypionate to his patients opposed to ementate because cypionate was more anabolic. been an enthate. You said that really clearly multiple times. I'm like, dude, where are you getting this science from, man? It's crazy.
What?
And
there was something I heard, I can't remember what it was, but they were saying like, I think they said enanthate doesn't raise blood pressure. Is that, you guys remember hearing that? Enanthate doesn't raise blood pressure, and cypionate and all the others do.
Yeah,
I was
what's like biochemistry behind that? What about that molecule changes how the 6,6,5 carbon structure of testosterone acts on sodium reabsorption?
I was
mean,
like,
well,
there's gonna be so many people hopping on enanthate now.
I get where they get that idea from. So, because it's
Me
a
too.
9 carbon chain as opposed to a 7 carbon chain, it's gonna take longer to build up, but it's actually gonna peak higher, and thus you have more active, which means you're gonna have more blood pressure and more anabolism. That's, I think, what they're getting that from. So if
we don't even know, we don't even know the kinetics of cypionate. It's unknown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because that extra styrene with that oxygen, we don't have that. Same with parabolin. No one can tell you the half-life of that. No one can tell you the half-life of MPP. When guys make up a half-life of MPP, they're like, it's a short ester. Is it a short ester?
Yeah.
How the fuck do you know that? It's not a short ester. It's actually not much shorter than Deca. It just, the kinetics are different, but we don't know.
Yeah, how does the
Yeah.
phenyl group change the propionate ester? That seems like it would make it longer.
Well,
I always laugh when people do like
when there's an
NPP
extra oxygen
cycles.
there, that definitely weighs more than a carbon.
Yeah. I always laugh when people do MPP cycles and they're like, I'm doing a short 6-week cycle and then coming off for like 4 to 6 weeks. Why? It's still in your system. It's still in your fucking system. It's like a never ending cycle, you dumbass. Like,
Yeah, that's why we don't use
The old
like,
clan
if
2
you look
days
at
after
any
getting off
testosterone
with a
study, we
35-hour
never use,
half-life.
like we never use testosterone cypionate in testosterone studies because the kinetics are unknown, so it's not predictable. But we always use enanthate, even though that's not what's made here.
yeah.
They've,
The other thing too that frustrates me is when people switch from like a long ester to a short ester and they say, oh, short ester testosterone, like test prop is so much better than test E. Like I noticed such a difference. I was way harder. It's like, no fucking shit. You've gone from taking like X amount of milligrams of a longer ester compound to X amount of milligrams of a shorter ester. You're getting more total milligrams of the actual anabolic and less of the ester. Like
It's
no
not only
shit,
that,
Sherlock, you're going to notice a
it's
bit of a
on
difference.
top of it. Like we talked
Yeah.
about this last time. They're just, the curve hasn't went anywhere yet, and then they just
Exactly.
stack equal dose on top of it. You doubled your
Yeah.
dose. That's why you feel it stronger.
Exactly, and even when that does wear out, though, it's like they're still on more total milligrams. Technically, if you compare the percentage of the actual total milligrams that are coming from the ester versus.
70 or
And, and
Yeah.
a lot of the dryness is good. Guys like Nick, you and I talked about this. Is guys will go on an off season, they're running 2 grams of test D, and then they go to 100 milligrams of test prop a day. Well, you just cut your dose in half.
Yeah.
Clearly you
Yeah.
get water.
Yeah, it used to drive. Yeah, I used to drive me crazy because if anything, the propionate molecule is smaller, and so 100 milligrams of test prop has more actual testosterone than 100. Yeah, that used to drive me crazy.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
look at test suspension, test suspension bloats you just as bad as anything else. It's not
Yeah,
like
that's
it has
what always
no
cracked me
extra,
up.
you just blow up like a pig.
Yeah, test
Yeah.
E made you bloated. Test prop made you dry because it was a smaller ester. But then when you remove the ester, then you get
All of a
test
sudden it bloats
suspension, then it's bloated again. Yeah.
They've got the first call out of the Arnold
Trying
South.
to find the live stream.
Yeah,
They got
is that Rubio in the middle? If anybody else is watching.
Is Arnold on right now?
Shit.
Yeah.
Can you,
Yeah.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
Brandon has hooked us up in the comments
you
section.
narrate it like it's a baseball game from the 1940s for me?
no.
It's on-
Well, so they've got Rubio in the center, Good Vito on one side of him, Antonio Burton on the other side of him. You know, that would be the top 3, what it looks like. And then they
How's
had
Rubio
Rafael
look?
Brandeo on the outside. I don't know why. I don't think he should be in the center, but it looks like his lats are lacking compared to the other guys. But he's bigger, you know. But yeah,
I'm curious what's going to happen
Muscle
when he
Contest
actually has.
International. YouTube.
yeah. Somebody posted it in the chat that there's a YouTube channel that's just streaming it.
Yeah.
Oh no,
but YouTube will rip you down usually. I can probably pull it up for a second.
Yeah, I mean, well, the channel.
I think that's the show that runs it.
Oh, is it? Yeah, it might be.
It could be
Maybe that's
wrong.
where it is.
Oh, nice.
Okay, you can show them. Yeah. Fuck this. This is awesome.
No. Muscle Contest International is the channel that's showing it. So that way
And that's them, I think. Yeah, because
and they have 170,000 subscribers.
Team Earl Gooney and Team Earl Gooney is Muscle Contest.
Oh,
So
is it?
I'm assuming that was just the first call out that walked off.
Is that William
yeah.
Bonac? Who's that guy walking off?
Tonio?
Oh, he's got the.
Tonio
Oh, okay.
Rubio.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's we can't go back.
We
Can you watch it?
I think you
Yeah,
can.
you can.
Yeah,
Okay, let's go
Oh,
back
awesome.
to the call again.
those are the
Here.
individuals.
Let me.
So first call outs. Here we go.
So you got Rubio
Man.
in the middle. All right.
Rubio
Rubio's
is
huge.
massive.
And you're right. Rubio has.
Vito
that-
does look.
His lats are.
He's
They're
not.
too high.
I don't think he knows how to pose.
Yeah, he's not.
Yeah, that too. He needs to like upwardly rotate a little bit to pop them a bit more.
Vito's a good poser. Shit.
I posted in our Instagram a better, not a live stream of a live stream.
Yeah. Rubio's not opening his back.
Amateur round. This isn't even their comparison round. It's just a coincidence that they're all the three big guys or all four big guys are all on the first call up.
What's Rubio's doing? What's he doing with his
I know
arm
that.
in that side? What the?
Vito's way killing it.
Yeah, Vito's posing's good.
Yeah,
I don't like his legs in that front shot though. I feel like they're.
he just needs to throw his hips back. That's what it is.
Yeah.
He's not
Yeah.
bringing the sartorius. Now he brings the sartorius out.
Yeah, now he looks narrower through the waist. Man,
Yeah.
look
Yeah,
at the
Tonio,
width
but
on those
Vito's
quads.
fucking killing it.
Mhm.
I didn't
There we go.
realize.
That's better.
I
Yeah, that
didn't
one's better.
realize He was so tall.
That's
So
by the way, that's
that's
not
good
Rubio
legs,
in the middle. If that's what you guys were thinking.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is
who
it not?
is it?
Yeah, I couldn't tell. Who is that?
Thank you.
He's bald.
Oh,
Who is
okay.
that though? He's the
I
big
don't know
dude.
who that is.
Oh, you don't know who that is? I was like,
Nah.
I can't tell who that is. I was guessing it was him.
That's
That's why I was
Yeah.
asking. I was like, is Rubio doing this?
Because I thought he wasn't competing, and I saw that, and I was like, "What? Oh, maybe you just did like a." I'm not telling you.
yeah, I
I'm
don't.
prepping.
I was like, this
Raph
guy's got
looks a
big
little
legs,
off.
but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've got
Oh,
Vito
look-
and I've been close so far.
look at Vito's hamstrings; they're so dug out.
It's
Like when he did that
crazy.
back double bicep before.
Wow.
He just
Yeah.
needs to improve his tan. The tan's so shit.
This isn't a first call out, is it?
No, I think this is just in order.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I was like,
Yeah, so the
why
men
is this guy in the middle?
open? There's Rafael Brando, Tonio Burden, Andre Carleo, Jonathan De La Rosa, Good Vito,
Is De La Rosa not in
Emmanuel
here?
Gonzalez, Alan, my name? I haven't even heard of these guys. Jefferson Oliveira, Luigi Toscaro.
Brandon says go live. It should be actual first call out now.
Okay,
So let's skip ahead in the video.
I'm trying to find it now. Where what tab did I have it open in? I got 3 tabs. There we go.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
There we go. Oh, that looks a little
All
better.
right. So,
Raphael's in the middle.
all right.
Yeah, Rafael does look good. He's made some massive improvements.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. It doesn't look huge here though
Man,
compared
look
to.
at
It's
What's
very
going on with that
deceptive. He
dope?
just got such a polished look.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot of short dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think Vito needs to definitely improve on posing. Still, I think it's just like some of those shots are good, but like the front shots, he loses control in his midsection. almost.
Look at this.
Fighting.
Why
Fighting.
is he fighting? Come on. Well, I mean, he's mad he's not in the middle.
He also beat his girlfriend supposedly. So there's that.
But I had a little too much trend.
A little too much.
That Halo
They
test-
should fight. They'd all be gassed out in 4 seconds.
Rafael's got the best. Rafael's got the best back double bicep out of him and Vito. That's for sure.
I
reckon
think Tonio looks great.
Yeah,
He does,
He's
yeah.
crazy looking.
He's a red trumps.
Yeah.
Tonio's red trumps.
Red.
Yeah. He's lat. Holy shit! His rear lat spread is good. Yeah,
Yeah.
Tonio's. That's
Good Vito's
solid.
looks awkward.
Yeah, he's posing so weird.
Good Vito didn't bring his like elbows forward enough. It kind of looked like he was. I don't know. Yeah.
He needs more glaze. He looks like he got fucking tan at an NPC show, not at
matte coloring.
Matt, yeah.
Maybe he didn't get his like final coat put on, like the you know, when they're just applying it out back in the pump up room. Yeah.
That's
Antonio's sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah. He looked. But we were at the New York Pro last year. It was like when he walked out on stage, you knew. It's so much more evident when you're there.
Yeah, I hate judging from video, because in person, I'm always much less opposed to the final placings at shows I've seen in person.
So Vito just needs to pose with his feet a little bit closer,
Yeah,
and it would really change the whole look of it. And that's, I think, what's really throwing off everything. I'm sure you're right about other elements, but I think that's the biggest reason why Vito's posing was so weird looking, is because his feet were so far apart.
yeah. Guys get that idea. They think wide feet's going to make their quad sweep look wider or something. I don't like that.
They just get thigh gap. And thigh gap.
Yeah. And you want to close the gaps when you're posing. You don't want to open the gaps.
Yep. Yeah.
Does anyone recognize any of these guys?
No.
No. But the guy in the yellow trunks has a very, I don't know, unique looking physique.
Old.
Yeah.
When I go pro, that's gonna be me. Here I am. I did it.
You're already a good poser. He didn't open up his back and his
Hello.
hand too far forward. The dude with the gray beard, I don't really get that. Either shave it or dye it black. You know, it's like
I'm rocking the gray beard.
Well, look at the guy with the pink trunks. Look how wide he's standing.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
there's like really the worst posing I've ever seen.
I can't even spread my legs that far.
It's
Wow.
like your egg trunk colors. It's like
Yep. That's my. That's the end of my range on the adduction machine.
Man, it's making me uncomfortable.
Yeah, man, I hated posing. No one likes posing, but how do you get on a pro stage and not look as like a polished poser? I mean, the amount of work it takes to be a professional bodybuilder.
If you can't pose, you should not get your fucking pro card. It's as simple as that.
They don't give them out here that way. I mean, these guys probably have never left Brazil.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're probably paid for their pro cards. Let's be real.
Well, I don't know about that, but I mean, it's just like you only have everyone who lives in Brazil probably tries to compete in the. And they had to fill out.
Nuts when people can't pose. I'll get guys like that I'm doing prep with. I'm like, get a posing coach, start posing every freaking day.
Yeah, if you're in prep, you shouldn't pass a mirror without hitting several poses ever. You should just be working on muscle. If you're at your desk, work on muscle control. You know, envision like what your arms are doing on a side chest. It should be by the time you're on stage, it should be like just pure muscle memory.
Yeah, agreed.
And you should be able to alter it based on how full you are. You know, like if you should be able to adjust every muscle. You should be able to adjust your poses for whether you brought a fuller look or a drier look, or if you don't have that kind of muscle control. I mean, why spend all that time dieting and just cardio and?
All right, so
is this guy getting hyped for last call out?
But the guys lower abdomen.
He's like, let's fucking go! I'm in the middle.
The lower abs look not good on the middle. The two white guys.
When we all get our Masters Pro card, this is going to be us. We'll all enter the same show. Last call out together.
That would be so adorable. That would be like the dream come true as we all competed. Does that guy wear shorts when he went tanning? Like, what is going on?
That one guy looks a little like Peter Putnam.
Quite a different color than his thighs and his back.
I think I talked about it, but when I was at Masters USA's, there was a guy. They ran out of cock socks when I was there.
No.
Yeah, and they were just like, guys, we're sorry. You know, if you don't have your own sock, you're. And it was all girls spraying too. That was. Yeah. There was one dude back there who just was not comfortable with it. He's like, I'm keeping my shorts on, and they're like, you sure? And Colin saw him on stage.
That's so weird. Not good.
So the cocksuck thing didn't even start until like 2019 or something.
Yeah.
I mean, for 10 years, you just want to
Go in there, fucking straight.
They offer Todd the sock, and he just smacks it away. He's like, "Hell no, give it to the pussy."
No, that's falling off anyways.
That's slipping off.
See the thing with the cocks. I didn't understand the whole thing. It's like I don't know. It didn't make sense to me. Just like don't make it weird.
What's funny is we didn't even have the individual tent until like 2012. In 2010, they would just line you up against a wall and then walk down the wall and spray you. And it was funny is because the girls who weren't getting tanned would sneak back there and watch. It was like, and I was like, all right, this is way cooler than I thought it would be. And I was like,
all right, we should grab a few questions.
We got a lot.
Yeah.
Let's start with the ones that were paid for. Brandon, would horse injectables have basically the same trustworthiness as gray market peptides?
Yeah,
Found some amazing deals. Amazing deals.
I don't know if I'm comfortable answering that one or not.
Well, so in Australia,
is that like only horses? I'm sure it's not really just for horses. That's just how they're able to sell it.
in Australia, it's illegal for human use. So like, and you can probably speak on this too, Nick. Obviously, you fucking live there, but I have clients there, and they have to use horse products, veterinarian products, like carnitine and other compounds.
Yeah, so the highest concentration carnitine you'll find in Australia is a vet grade 200 milligram per mil, and that's what every bodybuilder in Australia uses. They just buy it, and they say it's for their pet horse or some shit, and just
Listen, you're like me. You're old. So is Kurt. Do you remember the old? I think they were 50 milliliter things of Equipoise.
Yeah,
back in the day.
Oh man,
there's up to milliliter. Yeah.
My favorite is
the brand of that.
The world's stupidest people. So tell me which is dumber, that they send you a picture of drugs they bought with the words "not for humans" on it, and they say, "I think I got the wrong one that says I shouldn't inject it." Are you the stupidest fucker on the planet? Because one, you didn't realize that's just how they keep in business, or two, you're sending pictures through text messages of drugs you bought and admitting you bought it for the purpose of injecting them. Which makes them the dumbest fucker on the planet.
Yeah, I remember those old 50 milliliter things of
Equipoise. Kurt, what was the reason that those were dosed so in such a low concentration? I mean, 50 milligrams per milliliter is tiny.
Because horses don't need that much. The dose for horses is way less than a human.
Yeah, horses are huge already.
So horses produce boldenone like innately. It's a product of aromatase before estradiol. So they already, it's just like, they just don't need the same amount that we need.
Wow.
I'm guessing there's no negative feedback loop too if they take exogenous boldenone. There's probably no negative feedback.
I can look up the chart. The dose is
You remember?
Oh yeah.
Holy fuck, man.
Well, Colton, the funny thing is,
wild.
guys back then weren't even using it to use it as equipoise. They were using it because it was ease the pain from more painful things. Like you'd use it with test probe or suspension just because it was so much oil. You pull the suspension first, and then the EQ on top of it. Then you
That's
stick it in.
funny as shit.
Dilute the concentration.
I remember a buddy of mine. He was his dad was a veterinarian, and every once in a while, those would fall off the back of his truck that he would use to go to the. He'd show up at the gym, and he's like, "Look what I got, Paul."
Only 300 cc's a week.
I mean, I've told the story a million times, but when I talked to the guys at Merck about Trenbolone, like on the Trenbolone project when we're doing Revlar stuff, they don't believe me that humans take this stuff. They always think I'm fucking nuts. They're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "We use this stuff." And they're like, "You take this stuff?" Yeah. Well, not like from the pellets, but yeah. Why? Why would you ever do that?
There was a period in like the late 90s, maybe early 2000s, you could go to Tractor Supply and sometimes find Finaplex and Cinevex on the shelf.
Oh, I used to make that shit. We used to do it all the time. Yeah, we used to do it all the time.
But you used to be able to go to the store and get it, not even have to order it online. Just walk
it's
right
not
into
FDA. It's not a controlled substance. because they realized that logistically, if you had to get a farmer to get a vet to write a prescription for 1,000 cows, what vet's going to do that?
I don't remember that guy's name.
You can just buy it.
I don't remember the guy's name on the message boards. He was in the early 2000s that sold all the conversion kits.
Animal kits?
Yeah, animal kits. That was it.
He had a website before Animal Kits called Anarchy in the USA, and he sold a lot of different wild things, but then he kind of focused on that eventually. He got raided at one point, I remember too.
I would think so.
I'm sure he did.
The Lord.
He was a high school chemistry teacher. he was like Breaking Bad.
Yeah,
I remember that. And then I made the wrong. I got the ones for the female or for the male cows or
Years.
the ones that
Cinevex
had
with the 20% estrogen.
yeah, I remember that, and I grew gyno like instantly when I took it. All right, what do we got next? The good old days. You boys don't know how good you have it now.
JT wants to know from Kurt of Baidi's comments about needing to go fewer than 1,500 calories for his cut and prep. No hate, just probably illustrates metabolic differences.
Just to preface, if you guys don't know, he has his own podcast, and it's actually a really good podcast. I recommend those guys a lot.
I enjoy it.
So this is like a coach saying,
yes, and he's talking about his experience personally going through prep. He has to get down. This is a guy very much like Samson Dowd, very big, bubbly, but a black guy who has hard times getting lean. And so
I know him. That's why he asked me.
Yeah.
I know
You know him.
Yeah, you're on a podcast with him recently, Kurt. I think.
I felt stupid.
Yeah.
I know him. And I said that.
Yeah.
No, I mean everybody's different.
That's not uncommon.
It's not,
That's
I mean,
very
What did
Brad
Bumstead
Davis,
go
the
to?
pro bodybuilder, 212. He's retired now. I used to prep him in the early mid 2000s. That dude, I don't even know how he had to have a body temp of like 70 because you just had to starve him. He never flattened out either, but he was big on the message boards. I think on Professional Muscle he was a big poster. But yeah, he would have to go crazy low. It was remarkable, and he couldn't eat anything in the off season either. He'd be he'd blow up on anything. I mean, he's huge, pro bodybuilder, but 2,000 calories and he'd be 260. It was outrageous.
Well, and it's not popular opinion, but it's actually better. He's more of an anabolic monster than anyone else because one of the things is how efficient you are with your food.
Yep.
Like I'm like a genetic misery that I need to eat so much. It's not like you're better if you don't need to eat that much. Your body's just super efficient with fooding.
I never needed much.
I would also stand to
50
reason.
grams of protein, 50 grams of carbs per meal, and I'll hold 265.
I want to point out, like, if you're not going to be hungry if you're isocaloric. Like, people are like, oh, well, he has to go less than 1,500. I'm like, okay, but he's not hungry at 1,600 now. So he might only be 200 calorie deficit. Whereas, like,
Yeah, it's all relative,
yeah, like I went from 4,500 calories average to 3,200 calories average. I didn't feel the slightest bit hungry, and I didn't lose any weight. And then, as soon as I started losing weight, I started actually getting hungry. Then I just added in some melanotan, not hungry anymore. It's
like 1,500 calories for me is breakfast, and I'd go hypo if I less than that. But I'm also not a pro bodybuilder, so it doesn't really prove anything.
Now, the one thing that Ian said recently was 1 year he starved Chris and brought Chris down to 1,600 calories. Worried, and that the biggest difference he saw between his prepping Chris and Hani prepping Chris was that Hani had a much higher in the food, and Chris came in fuller and sharper. So his best prep and his best peak was using more food. Just because Biden is using less than 1,500 calories, that may not be optimal. Perhaps he should be doing diet breaks every 4 weeks, take a week of reset maybe he's not using any thyroid to keep his metabolism up. He's letting his metabolism crash. And so he's doing what we used to do with bikini girls, which is just bring them down. I had a floor of calories for girls. I wouldn't go lower than that for ethical reasons. But I know that a lot of people would have their bikini girls on 600, 700 calories because the girls' metabolisms were so shitty. And then they weren't using thyroid medication to keep it fixed at a stable level. And they weren't carb cycling them, and they weren't doing diet breaks. They were just throwing more and more and more cardio and pulling carbs and fat from them, which is some barbaric shit that was done when I started, but most people don't do that stuff anymore. But there's a lot of really bad habits that are still around.
And I just met this body guy the other day, so I can't really speak to anything else.
Proper dieting is a process of pushing and pulling. It's not just like keep pulling. And that's where you know an experienced coach from a shit coach is their approach to the actual dieting side of things. I mean, anybody can like get somebody to grow. Just gradually titrate calories on a needs basis. Make sure you're recovering. It's pretty simple shit when it comes to growing. When it comes to fat loss, it can get a little bit murky. You need to know what you're doing.
I will say with the caveat though that that doesn't mean you shouldn't have to push calories low. It doesn't mean that if you're not, your calories will get low regardless of who you are, especially at those last few weeks. I have been at 1,500 calories before, right? Like I'm sure all of us have been somewhere near that at some point before. And it's not to say that there's some secret that you're not getting or your coach doesn't understand if you are doing low calories and you don't get high days as often as you should, but very likely that first or second prep is usually the hardest, and it's going to be the one that you have to.
I agree.
Well, we're back to what Justin was saying. Was that in the beginning, when you don't have a lot of muscle, you will have to starve because you don't have enough muscle to have a metabolism high enough. It isn't this, but we used to think it's 40 calories per pound of muscle. So if you have 30 pounds of muscle and you're a girl, that means your basal metabolic's about 1,200. If you've got 100 pounds of muscle and you're a dude, your basal metabolic's about 4,000. Now, it's less than that, but once you've accounted for the amount of activity level, the need, and the training, it does work out to about that range.
Yeah, it compounds too, because the muscle, just to sustain itself, burns those calories. But then that extra weight that you carry around means, you take a 5 foot, 100-pound female, she might burn 28 calories per 1,000 steps. You take a 285 pound, 6 foot bodybuilder, and he might burn, 60 or 70 calories per every 1,000 steps. And so
I give myself 50 calories for 1,000 steps at 200 pounds.
Yeah.
And then I actually, on my spreadsheet, what I do is I have adjusted calories where I subtract out my steps divided by 20 and then the cardio amount of calories. And so that I have a column that's the intake calories and then adjusted calories.
Yeah.
There are some people, I'm sure you've run into these, Justin, that just don't get flat. I had a guy last year I absolutely murdered. Took him down to zero carbs, and he never got flat. And like, if I did that, I would look like shit.
Yeah. No, that was that Brad Davis I was talking about. He took second with me at the junior nationals, and I like you say, Todd said, you'll only take girls so low because of ethical reasons. I felt like I was afraid I was going to be put in prison for torturing this guy, but same thing, never ever stopped being round.
Yeah, some people like that though, and I mean, like we kind of said earlier, there is genetic variance. I mean, there's always going to be those outliers that do need that real hard digging involved in their prep, and I mean, like you said before, when you don't have much muscle mass the first time you do a contest prep, you do have to kind of push because you just don't have that much metabolically active tissue that requires calories. But there's also the factor of you've never been that lean in your life before. You're going to have to suffer to get rid of that, what I call baby fat, for the first time. And once you do that, your body's a lot more pliable to the process. You've also built a lot more mental fortitude, so you can actually mentally withstand the dieting process more, which is something I think a lot of first-time competitors or new coaches overlook, is the fact that every time you do a prep, the next consecutive prep you do is going to be mentally easier if you're not a little bitch. And then eventually you'll get to a point where you can just kind of cruise. I mean, it's probably why, Paul, your last prep was the easiest prep you've ever had. 1, your body fat set point's lower now. 2, you've had that much experience doing preps. And 3, your body's a lot more pliable pulling that body fat off because it's kind of like routine. It's a routine process. So you're just kind of like, it's just kind of falling off. I know my last prep I did, even though I hit an all-time leanness or level of conditioning, it was more comfortable for longer than my first prep, and I didn't get as lean in my first prep. It felt like it was a lot more suffering involved. I don't think I got hungry until like 6 weeks out in my last prep, or it might have even been like 4 or 5 weeks out.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same way with me. I kind of got hungry there, like, yeah, I think it was like in that 8 to 4 week range, and then I think Justin pushed the food back up, if I remember right, towards the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you do it right, you're ready ahead of schedule, and so most of the time it's a case of reverse dieting into the show.
I probably could have been a little bit leaner, but I think my guess is that you were playing the game of fullness versus,
Yeah, for Masters. Yeah, and I thought it worked, but I thought you got robbed. But
yeah, I thought I looked good. I mean, I was one of the best conditioned guys up there.
I don't think if you were leaner, it would have made a difference. I think that it was the lower body muscle, if anything, was the one thing. They told me back. Is what they told me. Yeah, they told me. But I've been working hard, Colin. I've been working hard on the back, bring up back. Danny helped me out with my back a little bit with some exercise choices and execution. So we'll see if it made any difference. It's only been 4 months. All right, let's grab another question. Then we get some people. I got to wrap up soon too.
Money asks, would you guys assess the physique of a guy in terms of pro potential? He seems pretty big in real life. I guess this is his handle on Instagram, beast bodies __.
Look, let me see if I can find it. I mean, it's hard to assess pro potential when people
so hard.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at Nick Walker.
Yeah.
Where he started out. I would have never in a million years said that guy's going to be.
That's the weirdest question in the world. Is like, do you think I have the genetics? Like, how the fuck would I know what kind of genetics you have? I'm not a test tube.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at his pictures. It's hard to. I mean, he looks like a big dude. Let me pull him up.
I mean, I think that there's 300 genes that we know of that control muscle and fat alone.
Yeah, you can't possibly have them all or not have all of them.
I mean, I think Flex
it might be Australian. He looks like he might be Australian. I've got a lot of mutual followers.
Genetics isn't one thing, and that everyone has good and bad genetics. Oh, he definitely has pro potential from what I can see because he's already big enough to turn pro.
Yeah, he's got. Look at one of his earlier posts. You can see a before and after of when he was younger. If you scroll down his page, there's a picture of him and his stringer.
I was expecting.
Yeah, if you're willing to put in the work.
Muscle shape looks fine. Nothing. I mean, his arms look like he'll have trouble making them a standout body part just from their structural shape. But he's got good quad shape. Good.
You scroll down to the bottom of his page. I saw up a bit more, a little bit higher, on the.
You'd have a better chance if his smile was better.
Blue stringer, and then the phone one above that. If you one above that, I think it is. Yeah, there we are. See there.
I mean, it looks like he's already a pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you just need some fine tuning and
he looks like
just
he's
get on stage.
5'6" and 230 pounds right there.
Yeah, the only thing you can really go judge by genetically is muscle shape. Some guys just have terrible structure. Yeah. And in that case, you're going to have a hard time turning pro. But other than that, like Nick Walker is a perfect example. You can't really say anything based on how someone looks early on in their training career and say what they're going to look like at their peak because just you don't know.
Yeah. All you can do is look at how they respond to muscle growth as a natural and then how they respond in terms of muscle growth when they introduce a special source. And usually after your first cycle or two, you'll know if you're going to be a pro or not, I think, just based on your rate of progression, how your look changes. I mean, I'm sure all of us here can probably attest that, we gained a solid amount on our first course. I think mine was 25 pound or something, and it was 300 milligrams of test a week for 12 weeks.
I mean, I didn't respond that way. I think you're a genetic freak, but I did grow. That was for sure. I grew maybe 10, 12 pounds, but
yeah, I grew. I don't remember.
That's good.
I grew, but I was too stupid to be tracking anything. I was just taking shit.
See, I'm autistic as fuck, so I wasn't. Even though I probably should have been, because I mean, everyone parties in their fucking mid-20s and shit like that. I didn't party. I literally lived autistic as fuck. I'd just eat, gym, fucking sleep, take drugs. like when I introduce the drugs, and it's like, yeah, just
With your accent, it makes sound like you're saying you're making a. You said everybody potties. Like I go potty too. Yeah, we all do.
All right, let's grab another one.
This is another interesting question, but he paid money. Ascension Martinez asks Paul, I basically inhale my food. How bad am I messing myself up not chewing properly?
Have you guys seen that guy on like Instagram and TikTok? He got kind of an overbite, and that's what he does. He doesn't chew his food, and
Yeah.
now he's got like a following because of it.
No, I've missed this one, thankfully.
Bevo, you're talking about Bevo.
Yeah.
I mean, so one, chewing improves the jawline and is something women would find attractive biologically. Now, they might deny it, but it doesn't really matter. But it's what it is. And two, if you don't chew your food, then it doesn't get digested, which means that it'll just cause gas and colonic impaction, and you're not going to absorb the nutrients from the food. So chewing a steak is necessary to digesting the steak. And because if you can't get the acid to nature the proteins in the meat, then the enzymes released in your duodenum won't digest the meat, and you won't absorb it in the ileum. I know you're like, I don't know what these means. It's like, well, you wanted an answer. This is your answer. It's like, so by not chewing it, it just makes it to your colon undigested, and then the bacteria eat it, and it produces gas. And that's what farting is. So if you're farting, it means you're not digesting your food. And if you're bloated, it means you're not digesting your food. So if you want to be less bloated and less farty, and you want to have a more attractive face, chew your food. If you don't, if you want to be farting,
if you want to be bloated and farting with a round face,
women like a good eater. That's what I'm hearing. All right.
So chew your food. Don't be Bevo. Chicks dig it.
Over-the-counter supplements to lower blood pressure.
Potassium,
magnesium.
Balance your minerals in general.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do any of you guys use Carditone? I've been using Carditone for a while.
I've had a couple clients use it. I've not had it myself just because I've come here, and since I've discovered it, I really haven't had an opportunity.
What are the ingredients in it? Isn't it
the same shit as basically? I think it has ubiquinol and it's been a while since I looked at the fucking.
Yeah, I mean, I remember people used to always talk about it, but I never even remember what the ingredients are. I mean, it just comes down to what the ingredients are, and if the chemicals have effects on NO2 or improving electrolyte balance, or
there you go.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know.
I wasn't totally wrong.
If you're in
Magnesium
Australia,
and Pro Blend.
if you're in Australia, which I doubt he is, I mean, I use Inadose's heart product, and it helps with my blood pressure too. I noticed an improvement when I introduced that. But it's just got the basic stuff like the ubiquinol, and vitamin D3, K2, a few other things. And at the end of the day, just don't eat like an arsehole. Make sure your electrolytes are balanced, and unless if you're just genetically cursed, your blood pressure is probably going to be pretty good.
I was showing Kurt this week by switching to the potassium salt, the stuff that has.
I think Todd just went to grab it.
half potassium, half salt in it. That my blood pressure dropped.
Yeah, you can probably come off telmisartan. If you really up your potassium, you might not need telmisartan. I don't use it.
Paul,
I don't use any ARBs.
Paul, you think you get grief for posting your cycles? You should see the DMs I get for posting about potassium. People lose their minds. They're like, what are you doing? Every top coach in the world drinks ocean water. You need to drink more ocean water and tell everyone to drink ocean water. And how dare you not take blood pressure medicine? I'll send screenshots of this shit. People actually get angry at me. They're like, well, you're going to kill yourself doing that. Well, you can look at my labs if you want. I look pretty healthy. Except my ear infection.
All right, what do we got? Another question here, and then we got to wrap this up soon.
Kurt got an ear infection from listening to a bunch of dumbasses on Instagram.
Yeah. His ears couldn't handle all the bullshit.
Too much bullshit, clogging up his ear holes.
I said this in the thing. It was just hilarious because the doctor asked me. I've been there before, and he knows I'm on HRT. But they always ask you your medicine list or whatever, and he's like, "So what medications you're on?" Testosterone, nandrolone, methadone, Serostim. He didn't flinch at all. He's just like typing.
He just doesn't know.
Nothing else? No. He's like, are your parents alive? Yes. Are they in medicine? No. Okay.
We got another question from S225. For a 6-week Anavar cycle of 25 milligrams every day, are the performance and cosmetic benefits equal when taken sublingually versus swallowing the pills whole?
I'll say what
put them up your bum. It's better to put them up your bum.
I'll say what I've said before. What are you, a bikini girl? 25 milligrams of Anavar? Only?
25 milligrams of Anavar might be safe, but I don't think it does anything for man.
You're not going to get shit out of that. Sorry.
Todd is going to come back, and Todd is going to say that if you use it literally before exercise, that it'll bypass the liver, but medically that's not true. So I'm just going to correct that before he says it. I got laughed.
He might have his headphones on. He's like, he's trying to rush back
right now.
He's wiping furiously.
No, I think
He's pottying
he,
like he's potty in his mid-20s.
Yeah.
he learned from the mistake last time. Remember when he went to the toilet to take a leak and he had his headphones on? We could hear him pissing. He's probably taken his headphones off, and that's why he can't hear you.
Well, just my question is, why would you want to take a 25 milligram only Anavar only cycle? Just get on a fucking test.
Well, like what I consider the dose for 50 to 80 milligrams of Anavar. It's like the effect.
Yeah, I mean, 50 sort of like the.
You'll feel better. I mean, you'll probably feel a little energized, maybe recover slightly better, but you're not going to transform your physique.
No, that's not going to do shit. So
He might look like a female wellness competitor.
Not wellness, maybe bikini.
Oh, bikini, yeah. That's what I meant to say, bikini. Why the fuck did I say wellness?
Those girls are. Those girls.
Yeah, they're actually built, yeah.
Arnold was very impressed with the wellness competitors when we were at the Arnold Classic.
Well, it's kind of like the female equivalent of classic physique, and Arnold is pretty much a classic physique guy, so.
Well, I don't think that's why he was looking at it.
Yeah. Oh, obviously.
Arnold had a classic boner.
He literally said he was in the front row drooling. That's what he said when he got up there.
He was so drunk.
Oh, yeah.
I think he had been hitting the schnapps. He had a lot of questions for those girls about their glute routines in the gym. He wanted to know more.
He was cracking me.
Wanted to know if he could watch.
All right, do we want to get one more in?
We got this gentleman asked this question a few times, so we'll grab it. Jason Wynn. He says every time he injects without fail, he's exhausted later that day, sometimes needing to nap. He's taking 100 milligrams Testosterone twice a week, 100 milligrams Primo and Anthate once a week.
Sounds like hypochondria to me.
It sounds like you're eating a lot of carbs in one meal. And you've got...
I don't think that would have any effect.
I think it's completely unrelated to the gear, unless if your
I don't
blood
see how
pressure
it
is
could be.
really out of...
Unless there's some other chemical in the gear that's.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is like an immune response that.
Oh wait, he's taking this shit in an incredibly silly way. If you were to split it up and take it every day, then you wouldn't have these huge escalating levels. But that's
I didn't even see that. Yeah,
so you're shooting an entire cc of Primo once a week. That makes absolutely no sense.
Why? Oh.
If you did,
it's only 100.
I'm going to disagree with you.
the doses are pretty low.
If it has an enanthate ester, it was designed to be used like that. That's not that. Just because like the current trend is like daily stuff doesn't mean that like if you inject. I've injected 600 milligrams of testosterone in one shot. I didn't get any different outcome than splitting it up.
Like you wouldn't experience same day.
You have to cleave the ester.
So 100% of people that I've had switch from every other day to daily saw an improvement in a bunch of subjective metrics.
They don't have to take naps anymore. That's what we're talking about. Let's stay focused on naps.
I think
I'm more interested to know what else he's doing on the day that he injects each week. Like, is he like? Does he have his biggest work day? Or is he wanking off? Like,
I know
he takes Benadryl with it.
I know he's just to keep the inflammation down.
but then I get sleepy.
The same thing every time. I take an Ambien, 3 Benadryl, inject myself, and I fall asleep.
And then I gotta fall asleep. I don't understand it.
Or does he take it on his like cheat meal day and he has a massive like carb coma? Like
I have
Or
to
you
take a
got
nap
before
every
bed.
time I eat sushi. Like once I get to like 50 rolls, I start to get sleepy, and it's the damnedest thing.
Weird. Why does that happen?
I get sleepy and my tum tum hurts.
I must be allergic, man. I don't know.
Well, there's your problem.
Yeah.
Start doing it in the morning, too.
shit.
lots of waking up.
Only late night.
You're gonna want to spread that out throughout the day, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to keep serum
Do
levels up.
moderate amounts repeatedly throughout the day.
Um,
And you got to
All
change hands too, just so you don't like develop a muscular imbalance.
Or
all right,
rash.
folks. I think we're going to wrap up on that note. You want to spread your wanking out so you have an equal dose.
Yeah, honestly, I'd say Jason, because you're still asking about it in the comments. Like, it's probably unrelated. Just probably,
Not
yeah,
accepting it.
Yeah, I would get it's probably mental at this point. You just kind of, believe, you almost kind of, I don't know, believe it's going to
willed it into existence.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
really,
I agree.
there's nothing chemically about 100 milligrams of testosterone or 100 milligrams of primobolan in a single injection that should make you noticeably sleepy.
Is he getting worked up about the injection? Like, is he getting
Yeah, it's got to be
Yeah,
something like
scratching.
that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
adrenaline dump, maybe. Yeah.
nervous and then
Yeah.
Yeah, like a nervous dumping afterwards. Yeah,
I would never imagine someone would get nervous about that. That's funny.
lots of people?
I nearly passed out when I did
man.
my first injection.
Go to hospital. People pass out. I mean,
Yeah,
think about
yeah.
Todd. You injected people probably, or
No
watched people
injection
in
drama.
a hospital clinical setting. People will pass out from it.
Well, my thoughts are, if it's anything, it might be like an immune response, and you have some bunk ass
But
gear.
possible, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like a extremely high BA or BB concentration, maybe.
Yeah,
So,
or
but
inflammatory
nothing
carrier
about
oil.
the testosterone molecule should be doing it. There's got to be something else going on.
Yeah.
All right, folks. We're going to end on that note. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great week.